and finally better relations with India. Now, trade, etc., can move forward with India only if both countries decide to have most favored nation status for each other. Pakistanis would know, and I'm sure they would not deny it, that until recently, 3/4 of Pakistan's trade with India was happening through illegal channels via the Dubai route. So Pakistan's desire to go in for an MFN status was to benefit their own economy, because if legal trade takes place, they collect taxes in the process. India can do without trade with Pakistan. If Pakistan doesn't,
one moment.
Sir, please listen to me, sir. If Pakistan doesn't want to have trading relations
because it
with
is
us,
time that I just
since
make a correction, please.
Sir, let me give the historical context. Since 1974, this MFN status has been doing
we are
and
not
growing.
getting a chance to say anything.
Mr. Pirzada, just let me complete. You got enough time. The MFN status has been doing the round between the two countries since then. But my final point to you is that if you say you had no role to play in the recent attack on Indian soldiers, are your borders and the LOC so badly mismanaged that jihadis can just walk across, kill Indian soldiers and disappear back there without the knowledge of the Pakistan Army? You are yourself therefore citing incompetence.
No, I'll throw it to Tariq Azeem.
The Pakistan Army, which I am not ready to believe.
No, I think I throw it to Tariq Azeem.
I am an admirer of the professional capability of the Pakistan Army. So therefore, how do you cover the Pakistan Army's attack on Indian soldiers when you say jihad?
No, I think it's I think it's working to a game plan out here. You see, Tariq Azeem one. Mr. Pirzada, may I hand over to Tariq Azeem first? Mr. Pirzada, Mr. Pirzada, may I hand over to Tariq Azeem first, please? Mr. Azeem.
Have you considered the possibility, and I'm saying a possibility before anybody attacks me, a possibility that this attack has taken place because of this Hurriyat or because of the freedom fighters within Kashmir? And please do not say that you don't have any such things going on in your side of the border.
You got freedom fighters there, but please, if you know the lay of the ground, no freedom fighter walks across to the LOC and attacks Indian soldiers. It is beyond physical capacity of the best guerrilla army to move from the valley to come and attack Indian soldiers and disappear back in the valley.
No, I find that argument, Mr. Azeem,
Arnab, I admire Maroof's his commitment to the army and his stance that Indian army is so strong that they would not allow any of these terrorists to go across and attack the Indian army. Of course, there's a possibility that they were attacked from within.
Mr. Tariq Azeem.
I mean, are you saying that these people crossed Pakistan Army?
I admire the Pakistan Army's military capability, and that is why I'm saying that how did those guys come across from the jihadi? Until now, the argument was, except yourself, virtually everybody from Pakistan said that even if they came across from the LOC, they were jihadis.
No, everybody knows that argument. That argument, Mr. Tariq Azeem, Mr. Azeem, 1 minute, Mr. Azeem, I'll tell you why your argument does not hold. The argument is very clear that your army was the aggressor because it took place for 3 reasons. I'll tell you why. The August 6th case happened. 1, 450 meters inside Indian territory. 2, it has been proven it was a classical military ambush. It could not have been the work of irregulars, as you are trying to suggest. I don't call them freedom fighters, by the way. There are no freedom fighters. There are terrorists, and a terrorist is a terrorist by any other name. And you should have the courage, Saeed Tariq Pirzada, of calling Hafiz Saeed a terrorist.
You're taking too much time.
Mr. Pirzada, why don't you just tell us whether or not you think Hafiz Saeed is a terrorist? Let's close this debate.
No, he's not a terrorist.
Oh, there you are. There you are. Then you banned his entire organization in December 2008 because he was a social worker.
By the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
Yes, and you will remember.
Number one. Kashmir is a living reality and internationally recognized dispute. Your problem is you consider it an integral part of India, and it is not.
Mr. Pirzada, I don't want to get rhetorical with you.
Their country.
No, I don't want to.
If you won't do it through the talks, if you won't do it through negotiations, somebody will have to pay the price.
You see, you are
in that threatening. It could be the people of Pakistan, or it could be both.
Well, Mr. Pirzada, I don't want to, you have a threatening tone. I don't think threatening tones work. but I'd like you to remember
It is
and
not
never
a threatening
forget.
tone.
I know,
It's
Mr.
an analytical tone.
Mr. Pirzada,
It's an analytical
Mr. Pirzada,
tone.
this
I am not-
you
I am
see,
in favor
Mr.
of
Pirzada,
talks.
Mr. Pirzada,
I'm
the
in
people
favor
of the army of Pakistan.
I'm in favor of holding,
Mr. Pirzada, let's go
sooner
back.
than later,
Let's be rational
some,
tonight.
Mechanism
Mr.
to start
Pirzada,
serious negotiations
Mr.
on the
Pirzada,
issue
one
of
minute,
Kashmir,
Mr.
Siachen,
Pirzada,
Shatri.
4
And,
times.
Already we have
4
that kind of
times
diplomacy going on.
you have
and you guys are shooting
you see,
all this process in the foot.
Mr.
That's what you're doing.
Mr. Pirzada, now listen to me for 30 seconds, okay? 4 times in the past, when you have shown disregard for the LOC, you have paid the price. Every time you did it. And when you disregarded it, 1948, you remember how you were beaten back. 1965, you know how you were beaten back.
You don't have to show
1971, 1971, your country will never forget.
This won't be.
And 1999, in Kargil, you were beaten back so black and blue, Mr. Pirzada, that you did not even accept the bodies of your own soldiers. What I'm saying tonight is simply this, that despite the beheadings,
no,
let's not get rhetorical. You're getting very rhetorical and personal. But I'm saying tonight, because Mr. Tariq Azim has been a diplomat, that despite the beheadings of January, Sartaj Aziz and Salman Khurshid met. In other words, Mr. Tariq Azim, despite what happened in January and despite the very strong public opinion in our country, there was an attempt at still giving Pakistan a chance. But these are not the circumstances. This is not the atmosphere in which, Mr. Tariq Azim, you have been a politician, you expect talks to go forward. Has a decision been taken in Pakistan to, let us call it off, or let's contribute to calling it off?
Let me address that question for one moment.
Anything off. We want talks with India, but please, our desire to resolve all issues through dialogue should not be taken as weakness. A process of dialogue suits and benefits both countries. There is a feeling in India that every time you talk to Pakistan, somehow it's Pakistan that benefits. May I suggest to you that if there are talks between the two countries and we resolve our issues on a table, I think it will benefit both countries.
You resolve your issues.
Maybe the world think, yes, you are also have got problem. You have got a lot of poverty in your country, as we have. I think we can resolve the issues, and I think the most favored nation status will automatically come once we have resolved all the issues between us. That's only a small issue.
But then you can't have ceasefire violations. You can't have ceasefire violations.
No, of
6
course
ceasefire
not.
violations.
I agree with you. I agree with
48
you.
hours.
But ceasefire violation should not take place from either side.
No, the ceasefire violations have been happening from the Pakistani side.
It should not. That's what you claim. When we ask for somebody else to come in and decide who is doing the violations, you don't want that.
I don't think.
When we say we sit together and decide, then you don't want that either. So I don't know how we're going to resolve this issue.
Mr. Tariq Azim, please, let's be realistic. This government in Delhi, despite public opinion, that it is giving a long rope, somehow Manmohan Singh is very keen on carrying on the peace process. Everyone knows that. So this government will not fudge the figures. And it is this government which is having to acknowledge, increased infiltration, increased attacks. These are not fudged figures.
In Pakistan, Mian Nawaz Sharif is attacked every day by our media, our politicians, that he is too much pro-India. When people came, when Indian journalists were here during the election time, senior people like Barkat Dar, Sushini Haider, I can name all of the people who were here. And when they spoke to Nawaz Sharif, he was very keen that he wants the settlement of all issues through dialogue. And he was attacked that he was being very, very soft on India. But you can't have it both ways. Our Prime Minister is very clear. He wants to resolve the issue through dialogue. But please, our desire to have dialogue with you should not be taken as weakness.
Well, I think then you have to have some consistency. But I'd like to go back to KC Singh. You see, one sec. Now, KC Singh, the government of India will have to take a position on it. It has dilly-dallied. It's been wishy-washy for far too long. And especially after the comment on MFN, if we just wring our hands and do nothing, despite the comment on record of the Pakistani finance minister, what message would we be sending? Why don't we say we pull back MFN status? We take back the decision we took in 1996. Let's also get tough with the Pakistanis if this is the language, which needs to be spoken, Mr. KC Singh.
Well, they are not exporting all that much to India. In any case, the MFN has been given, not given by us bilaterally. It is as members of the WTO. And Pakistan as a member of WTO is duty bound to give it. It's not a concession that they're giving you. And the funny thing is that when Pakistanis discussed this most favored nation, they said one of the difficulties they have is the Urdu translation of the word, which says सबसे दोस्त पसंद देश. हम वो कहते हैं ये कैसे कह सकते हैं पाकिस्तान के अंदर. So that's another difficulty. You can see how ridiculous it can get that the Urdu translation of MFN actually becomes a political issue in Pakistan. Now, both prime ministers, I think, have not been able to handle this last incident in a manner where they could guide the public opinion in the two countries to a soft landing. And it's spun out of control. And I would have imagined Mr. Nawaz Sharif, instead of taking it backwards, should have at least made some noise where instead of this kind of an argument where we hear that we have done it onto ourselves. Because my information, one second, my information is that in the place where the incident took place, where the attack took place, it is beyond the fence. Because in many places the fence is away from the line
Nawaz Sharif has decided,
no, if Nawaz Sharif,
but one second, KC Singh, I'd say if Nawaz Sharif has decided to give in to Hafiz Saeed, then what are we giving him a long rope for? Because, no, Mr. Tariq Azim, you know very clearly this, and tell me if I'm wrong. But it was the Jamaat-ud-Dawa and all these hardline groups and Hafiz Saeed, they were the ones, they had two protests, one in December and one in June. In May, your government says we will carry on and we'll implement MFN. In June, Hafiz Saeed's group organized protests. Now in August, Nawaz Sharif goes back. That proves it, doesn't it? Mr. Tariq Azim, that proves that in Pakistan today, I'm sorry to have to say this, but Hafiz Saeed calls the shots, not your elected government. Maruf raised his hand. Actually, Tariq Azim, I'll come back to you after Maruf's reaction. Maruf.
Arnab, I just got one point to make to substantiate what Mr. KC Singh has said. My first position is that I think in both cases of India and Pakistan, the political leadership has failed to exercise complete authority and control over the situation, and that is how the situation is spiraling out of control. Two, if the military on both sides are operating as a law unto themselves on the LOC, and the Indian military in this case has reason to be grieved because soldiers have been massacred once again, then the military must be co-opted into the dialogue process, because history is shown when the Pakistan military underwrites a peace arrangement, it stays. And finally, the answer to the entire riddle of what happened on those days when those 5 soldiers were killed lies in what Mr. Azim has said earlier. He has said that Mr. Nawaz Sharif is getting a lot of negative press and a lot of flack in Pakistan.
So he wants to divert the attention?
To his pro-India views. And therefore people are trying to spoil his party. And by the hardcore elements, not entirely the whole military, but certainly the anti-India rigid element, are doing these kind of activities to ensure that Nawaz Sharif and the peace process is neutralized.
And we know, Mr. Tariq Azim,
the political leadership must exercise control.
Well, of course, but the political leadership does not exercise control, Mr. Tariq Azim. The Punjab Assembly passed a resolution against India. And tomorrow, I'm told at 5 p.m., the President has summoned a meeting of the National Assembly at Parliament House in Islamabad, where they are going to pass an anti-India resolution. Is this the last resort for Nawaz Sharif to survive?
Today, Punjab Assembly passed a resolution because there was firing across the border from Indian side in Shakargarh. Shakargarh happens to be in Punjab.
That was completely in response.
Happens to be in Punjab. That's
completely in response to 6 unprovoked incidents of firing by Pakistan since Saturday.